Mars was humanity's boldest step into the cosmos, a sprawling network of domed cities, research stations, and mining complexes carved out of the red dust. For years, the colony had been a beacon of hope, proof that Earth was no longer alone. It was a testament to human ingenuity, resilience, and ambition. Commander Lila Reyes had never imagined her posting to Artemis Station orbiting Mars would become the epicenter of humanity's darkest hour. She stood on the observation deck, gazing down at New Elysium, the heart of the colony, nestled in the shadow of Olympus Mons. The city's lights twinkled against the dull, dusty plains, a fragile promise of life on a hostile world. Then the sky tore open. It started as a blinding flash, brighter than the sun, unnatural and sudden. The station's hull groaned under the strain of a shockwave racing through space. Alarms screamed in unison, and the entire station shuddered violently as if caught in a cosmic earthquake. "Report!" Lila barked into her comm. Static answered. Then, frantic voices filtered through, disjointed and panicked. "Hull breach! Deck 6, we're losing atmosphere. Power grid's down. Main reactor is unstable. Missile impact. Aft sector." The station's automated defenses blinked on, firing point defense lasers at incoming projectiles. But it was too late. The attack had come out of nowhere, relentless and precise. From her vantage point, Lila could see the surface of Mars erupting in chaos. Explosions tore through the colony's domes like lightning bolts of destruction. Mining rigs on the plains shattered under kinetic bombardments. Transit lines froze as power failed. The colony's emergency broadcast crackled to life, voices begging for aid, reporting losses, pleading for hope. A distorted transmission cut. Through the noise, a voice cold and merciless sent directly into all frequencies. "Terrans! You have no claim here. Withdraw from this sector or be extinguished." Shock rippled through the command center. Who were these attackers? How had they bypassed every sensor and defense? The technology was unlike anything Earth had encountered. Silent. Warships cloaked by advanced stealth, weapons that cut through shields like a knife through cloth. Lila's mind raced. The Martian colony was the first major foothold off Earth. Its loss would be catastrophic, not just strategically but symbolically. The attack wasn't just a military strike, it was a declaration of war. "Send out distress signals to Earth," she ordered, voice steady but urgent. "We need help. Fast." Her comm officer's face was grim. "Signals are being jammed, Commander. The interference is too strong. It's scrambling our outgoing transmissions." Dread settled over the room. On the surface, survivors scrambled to the shelter of underground bunkers. Automated defense turrets tried to hold off the invisible enemy, but the enemy's precision strikes targeted each battery until silence reigned. Meanwhile, within the station's control rooms, engineers fought desperately to reroute power and seal breaches. Fire suppression systems hissed in corridors filled with smoke and debris. The station's integrity was failing. Yet amid the chaos, Lila saw sparks of defiance. Captain Thomas Chen, leading the security teams, rallied his troops. "Hold your ground! Protect the evac zones!" His voice was fierce over the comms, cutting through panic. Scientists, engineers, and soldiers formed impromptu squads, scavenging weapons, tending the wounded, repairing damaged systems. Lila's own unit prepared to launch emergency shuttles, carrying the most critical personnel and data off Mars if evacuation became necessary. Minutes turned into hours. The assault continued, unyielding, and then came a new threat. Warships cloaked in shadow, slipping into Mars orbit. They opened fire on the colony's orbital defenses with plasma lances and railguns, reducing satellite arrays to blazing wreckage. From her observation deck, Lila saw them approach. Their hulls sleek and black, lacking any recognizable insignia, alien in design. "They strike first," she muttered. "But we will strike back." Her jaw clenched. Mars was not just a colony to be wiped away. It was humanity's foothold in the stars. And as the battle raged, somewhere in the void, Earth's fleets prepared to answer the call. The war for humanity's future had begun. The red dust settled over New Elysium, but the scars of war remained etched deep into Mars' battered surface. The once proud city lay in ruins. Dome sections collapsed, tunnels flooded with debris, and the flicker of dying life support systems echoed through shattered habitats. Commander Leela Reyes stood amid the rubble of a command outpost, the weight of loss pressing on her shoulders. The colony's surviving population, now scattered and fractured, looked to her for hope, for direction, and she had none to spare. "Status report?" she demanded from Captain Chen, who had returned from a failed attempt to rally scattered defense units. "Casualties are severe. We lost nearly half the population in the initial strike. Communications with orbit are spotty at best. Earth hasn't responded to distress calls," Chen said grimly. Lila clenched her fists. The silence from Earth was deafening. It meant the fleet was still mobilizing, or worse, unable to help in time. The attackers had not just hit a colony, they had struck at the heart of humanity's expansion and left it exposed. Yet even in the rubble, humanity stirred. Engineers and scientists had taken refuge in the underground tunnels beneath New Elysium, scavenging what remained of damaged reactors and machinery. With limited resources, they worked tirelessly to restore power and environmental controls. In one such tunnel, Dr. Nira Solis, a brilliant but exhausted astrobiologist, examined a piece of alien technology recovered from the attack. Its sleek, black alloy pulsed faintly with unfamiliar energy patterns, proof that the invaders were far beyond anything Earth had encountered. "We can't just wait for rescue," Nira said. "We have to adapt, learn from what they left behind." Lila nodded. "Then we rebuild and we fight back." Word spread quickly. Small resistance cells formed across the colony, soldiers, miners, scientists, even civilians, united by one goal: survival. Outside, the Martian storms began to howl, kicking up violent dust devils that cloaked the battered city in a swirling haze. The hostile environment became both enemy and ally, forcing the invaders to slow their advance and giving survivors precious time. On the orbital platform above Mars, the battered remains of the Artemis station clung to life. Repairs were underway, but the station's sensors picked up something new: a faint signature moving through the void at impossible speeds. It was Earth's response. Fleets that had once seemed distant now surged toward Mars, equipped with technology decades ahead of anything deployed on the colony. Among them was the EHS Vanguard, Earth's newest flagship, bristling with advanced weapons and AI-assisted command systems. Fleet Commander Marcus Thane stared at the holomap, tracing the last known position of the attackers. "They hit hard and vanished, but they'll have to face us soon." "We're coming." Back on Mars, Lila received the encrypted message. "Reinforcements en route. Hold your position. Earth stands with you." The words rekindled a fire inside her and every survivor. They were no longer alone, yet the war was far from over. Using the fragments of alien tech recovered from the ruins, Earth's scientists accelerated research, unlocking new ways to enhance their ships and soldiers. Adaptive shields, plasma-based weaponry, and AI-driven tactics became humanity's sharpened edge. Humanity was no longer the prey. It was becoming the predator. Meanwhile, whispers spread through the surviving colonists of the invaders' true identity. The Karath, a ruthless alien empire intent on wiping humanity from the stars before it could rise. The knowledge stung, but it also steeled resolve. On the outskirts of New Elysium, Lila gathered her makeshift command council, a diverse group of leaders from military, science, and civilian ranks. "We rebuild," she said, voice firm. "We adapt. And when the void carries our vengeance back to them, we will be ready." Their eyes met hers with unspoken agreement. They were broken, but unbowed. Mars, once a symbol of hope, was now a crucible. From its ashes, a new humanity would rise, stronger, faster, and deadlier than before. Because the void carried more than just darkness, it carried humanity's vengeance. Mars was still smoldering beneath the rising suns when the truth finally emerged from the shadows. Commander Lila Reyes sat at the edge of a makeshift conference room deep within New Elysium's surviving command center. The room was dim, illuminated, only by flickering hollow screens projecting alien schematics and decrypted communication logs. Around her, a circle of military officers, scientists, and intelligence analysts waited for the briefing that could change everything. Dr. Nira Solis stepped forward holding a battered data pad. "We've recovered more fragments of the attacker's technology from the battlefield. Our specialists have been working around the clock to analyze it." She tapped the pad, and the hollow screen shifted to reveal a sleek black warship, its angular design unlike anything in human archives. "These ships belong to a species known as the Karath. They are an expansionist empire with advanced stealth capabilities and brutal military doctrine." A murmur spread through the room. Lila frowned. "How advanced?" Nira's gaze was grim. "Far beyond us. Their weapons can cut through our best shields with ease. Their cloaking technology renders their fleets nearly invisible to our sensors. And their tactics? Ruthless and efficient. They strike first to destroy morale, then they overwhelm." A military officer interrupted. "Do we know why they attacked Mars? Was it a reconnaissance strike or a full-scale invasion?" Nira shook her head. "Not entirely. But intercepted transmissions suggest they viewed humanity as a potential threat, an emerging power that could disrupt their control over nearby star systems." Lila clenched her fists. "So we're a threat simply for reaching for the stars." "Exactly," Nira said. "To the Karath, expansion means domination. There's no room for rivals." The weight of the revelation settled heavily on the room. Captain Thomas Chen spoke next. "We've captured a Karath soldier during a skirmish near the eastern mining fields. Interrogations are underway." Lila's eyes narrowed. "Any intelligence?" Chen nodded. "They're fierce warriors, indoctrinated to see humans as inferior. But they're not mindless. There's discipline, strategy, and a rigid command hierarchy." A comm officer chimed in. "We also decoded part of their communication network. The Karath use a complex AI to coordinate fleets across vast distances, allowing lightning-fast responses and near-perfect battlefield awareness." Lila tapped her fingers on the table. "They're organized. They're merciless. And they see us as an obstacle." She looked around at the weary faces. "Then we need to be more than just survivors. We have to become fighters who understand their tactics, adapt quickly, and exploit any weakness." Dr. Solis nodded. "There's one more thing." She hesitated, then continued. "The Karath have a symbol, a shattered star surrounded by black wings. It's their emblem of conquest. It's been found painted on destroyed facilities, even on some of their captured equipment." Lila's eyes hardened. "They want us to know who they are, to intimidate us." "But it may have the opposite effect," Chen said. "It's a challenge." Across the room, the flickering holoscreen suddenly showed a new image, a vast star map dotted with red zones. The Karath, territories, their controlled systems glowing ominously. Mars sat precariously on the edge of this expanding shadow. "We're standing on the frontier of their empire," the intelligence chief said quietly. "If we don't act, they will swallow the colony, and then Earth." Lila swallowed hard. "We won't let that happen." She rose to her feet, her voice steady and commanding. "Humanity has faced extinction before. We've survived plagues, wars, and natural disasters. Now we face an enemy from the void, but we will not break." Her team nodded, resolve flashing in their eyes. "This war isn't just about Mars. It's about every human life, every dream of reaching the stars. We'll use every resource, every ounce of courage, to defend what we've built." As the meeting ended, Lila lingered for a moment, staring at the star map. The void beyond was vast and dark, but it was also the battlefield where humanity's future would be forged, and from that day forward, the name Karath would become synonymous with the enemy. Humanity was destined to conquer, or be consumed. By the ruins of New Elysium smoldered beneath a dim, blood-red Martian sky, but within its shattered walls a new fire was kindling, one born of desperation, ingenuity, and unyielding will. Commander Lila Reyes stood in the heart of the colony's underground command hub, surrounded by flickering consoles and the hum of machines patched together from salvaged parts. The air was thick with tension, but also a fierce determination that none would let the Karath's assault mark humanity's end. Outside, the remnants of Martian defenses struggled against the encroaching alien scouts probing for weaknesses. But inside, Lila oversaw something far more powerful: the forging of humanity's vengeance. "Status on weapon systems?" she demanded. Engineer Malik Rashid wiped soot from his brow, eyes bright despite exhaustion. "We're retrofitting recovered. Karath tech, adaptive plasma emitters calibrated to human pulse frequencies. We're integrating them into existing ship platforms. It's risky but promising." Lila nodded. "Good. And the AI enhancement programs?" Malik gestured to a cluster of terminal screens. "Running simulations on neural command algorithms. We're teaching our fleet to anticipate Karath tactics before they happen. It's like giving our captains a sixth sense." From the other side of the room, Dr. Nira Solis added, "We're also analyzing their stealth tech. We can't replicate it fully yet, but with human ingenuity we can develop countermeasures. We aim to turn their own advantage against them." Lila allowed herself a brief smile. "This is more than survival. We're evolving." Across the colony, soldiers trained in guerrilla warfare, learning to fight the shadows where the Karath excelled. Civilians volunteered to bolster defenses, their hands steady even as their hearts trembled. At the orbital docks, hastily repaired warships hummed with renewed purpose. Fleet Commander Marcus Thane arrived from Earth aboard the EHS Vanguard, a sleek vessel gleaming with advanced weaponry and armor. "Commander Reyes," Thane greeted, his voice grave but resolute. "Earth's fleets are converging here. We bring reinforcements, new technology, and the resolve to turn the tide." Lila stepped forward, meeting his gaze. "We've paid dearly, but we haven't broken. The Karath underestimated humanity's resilience." Thane nodded. "And now they'll face a force they can't ignore." Within days, a transformation swept through Mars. Workshops buzzed with activity, turning alien scrap into cutting-edge weaponry. Scientists and engineers worked side by side with military strategists to refine battle plans based on captured intelligence. Lila watched as soldiers suited up, their armor upgraded with adaptive shielding derived from Karath designs. Pilots trained relentlessly, learning to exploit new propulsion systems that pushed human ships beyond previous speed limits. "Faster than light," Malik whispered, watching a test run. "We might actually have a chance," but the road ahead was perilous. Intelligence warned of Karath reinforcements massing beyond Mars' orbit. Their next assault would be larger, more devastating. Lila addressed her commanders in a war council. "We fight not just to defend, but to strike back. We'll hit their supply lines, disrupt their communications, and reclaim our place in the stars." Plans were laid for a coordinated strike deep into Karath-held space, a bold gamble to catch the enemy off guard and seize the initiative. As night fell over the scarred Martian landscape, Lila found a moment alone beneath the fading glow of the colony's remaining power cores. She thought of Earth, the blue world she'd left behind, and the countless lives depending on her success. She thought of Mars's fallen, the innocent lives shattered by a war they never chose, and she thought of the stars, cold, distant, but now within reach of human vengeance. In the dark, a single thought burned bright. This was humanity's forge. From fire and ruin they would rise, stronger, faster, deadlier, because the void carried not just silence but the promise of retribution. The EHS Vanguard cut through the cold vacuum like a silver spear, leading the newly forged fleet out from Mars's orbit. Commander Lila Reyes stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the star-studded void ahead. The vast battlefield where humanity's fate would be decided. "Fleet ready," reported Captain Thomas Chen, his voice steady but laced with tension. "Engage stealth protocols," Lila ordered. The newly developed cloaking fields shimmered briefly over the fleet's hulls, masking them from enemy sensors. They were taking the fight to the Karath, using the stolen technology turned against its creators. The plan was bold, a surprise strike deep into Karath-controlled space, targeting their critical supply hubs and communication nodes to cripple their war machine. It was humanity's first offensive since the attack on Mars. As the fleet slipped through the shadows of uncharted star systems, Lila's mind raced through battle strategies and contingencies. The stakes had never been higher. Suddenly, the quiet was shattered. "Enemy fleet detected!" shouted the tactical officer. "Karath warships emerging from hyperspace ahead!" Lila's heart pounded. The Karath were faster than expected, anticipating humanity's moves with chilling precision. "Raise shields! Prepare weapons!" she commanded. "Target their lead ship! Disable their command node!" The battle erupted like a supernova. Energy. Beams streaked across the void. Plasma lances tore into hulls, and missiles weaved through the chaos. Human ships, smaller and fewer in number, fought with desperation and ferocity, their upgraded weapons blazing with newfound power. Yet the Karath's coordination was ruthless. Their AI commanded flawless maneuvers, cutting off escape routes and exploiting every weakness. Captain Chen's fighter squadron executed daring strikes, buying precious seconds as larger ships exchanged deadly volleys. In the thick of the battle, Lila's voice rang out, steady and unwavering. "Hold formation! Focus fire on their artillery platforms! We break their lines here!" Despite losses, humanity's fleet pushed forward, disabling key enemy vessels. But just as victory seemed within reach, the Karath unleashed their secret weapon, a massive dreadnought cloaked in shadow, bristling with energy cannons. The dreadnought's blast tore through the Vanguard's shields, sending shockwaves rattling. "The bridge! Damage report!" Lila demanded. "We've lost main propulsion. Auxiliary engines offline," came the grim reply. The flagship lurched, vulnerable. "Captain Chen, all fighters to defense perimeter. Protect the Vanguard at all costs," Lila ordered. As chaos engulfed the fleet, a sudden explosion rocked the enemy lines, an unexpected detonation on the dreadnought's hull. "Scouts report a saboteur team on board the enemy ship," Chen shouted. "They've planted charges in the engine core." Lila's eyes narrowed. Humanity was fighting not just with weapons, but with cunning and daring. The saboteurs, soldiers trained in infiltration, had risked everything to cripple the Karath's strongest vessel from within. The dreadnought shuddered, then erupted in a blaze of fire and debris, tearing a hole in the enemy fleet's formation. With their command ship crippled, the Karath fleet faltered. Seizing the moment, Lila gave the order to press the attack. Human ships unleashed a coordinated assault, disabling several enemy cruisers and forcing the remainder to retreat. But the victory came at a steep price. The EHS Vanguard was badly damaged, casualties heavy, and the fleet's morale tested to its limits. Back on Mars, survivors watched anxiously as encrypted updates trickled in. The news was a mix of hope and hardship, a hard-won battle, but a reminder of the long war ahead. In the aftermath, Lila gathered her commanders. "We've sent a message," she said quietly. "Humanity can fight in the void, but the Karath will come back harder." Captain Chen nodded. "They know we're no longer prey. We're the hunters now. The real war was beginning. Lila's gaze drifted to the stars outside the viewport. The void was vast and merciless, but it now carried the unmistakable roar of humanity's vengeance. And from the ashes of Mars to the far reaches of space, a new chapter was being written, one where humanity would rise, burn, and fight until the stars themselves bore witness to their fury. The aftermath of the first offensive strike hung heavy over the fleet as it limped back toward Mars. Systems battered, hulls scarred, and hearts worn thin by the grim reality of war. Commander Lila Reyes paced the bridge of the EHS Vanguard, the hum of damaged engines echoing like a distant heartbeat. She scanned the reports flooding in, losses tallied, supply chains strained, and unsettling signs of deeper Karath infiltration. The war was no longer fought just on starfields, but in shadows. Intelligence officers brought grim news. Several sabotage attempts within the Martian colonies, and even aboard key supply vessels. The Karath employed spies, shape-shifting infiltrators who could mimic human appearance and mannerisms with terrifying precision. Security protocols have been upgraded, Captain Chen briefed her. But every day, it feels like the enemy is one step ahead. Lila's jaw tightened. We need to root them out before they tear us apart from within. In the dark corridors beneath New Elysium, whispers of paranoia and mistrust spread like wildfire. Every face, every word was scrutinized. Families turned against each other, and alliances fractured under the weight of suspicion. Yet amid the tension, heroes emerged. Sergeant Amina Khalid led a covert task force hunting infiltrators. Her team moved silently through the colony's underbelly, uncovering plots to sabotage reactors and poison water supplies. Their successes were celebrated, but came at a steep cost. Many operatives lost in the shadows they fought to illuminate. One night, as Lila reviewed security footage, an alert flashed: unauthorized access to the colony's medical bay. She arrived moments later to find Sergeant Khalid confronting a figure cloaked in shadows. The intruder's features shifted grotesquely, revealing the alien mimic beneath human guise. The ensuing fight was brutal and swift, ending with the infiltrator's capture. But the encounter left the colony shaken. The enemy was closer than anyone dared admit. On the strategic front, Dr. Nira Solis pushed scientific boundaries to develop biosignature scanners capable of detecting Karath shapeshifters. It was a race against time, with each day bringing new threats. Meanwhile, Fleet Commander Marcus Thane coordinated a series of guerrilla strikes against Karath supply convoys, aiming to starve the enemy's war machine. Lila knew these tactics, bought time, but they wouldn't end the war. The true battle was for humanity's soul. In a rare moment of quiet, Lila confided in Nira. Sometimes I wonder if the stars were worth reaching if this is what awaited us. Nira's reply was steady. The stars don't ask if we're ready. They simply wait for those brave enough to claim them. Lila drew strength from those words. Humanity had lost much, but had not yet lost itself. The void was dark, but it carried a flame, one that no enemy, no shadow, could extinguish. As new fleets gathered and defenses hardened, the war deepened, not just with weapons, but with hope, sacrifice, and unbreakable resolve. Because in the darkest shadows of war, humanity's true light would shine brightest. Mars's skies burned crimson as the Karath armada descended like a dark tempest, blotting out stars with their massive warships. The colony's defenses, bolstered but weary, braced for the onslaught that would decide the fate of humanity's foothold in the solar system. Commander Lila Reyes stood at the command center's forefront, surrounded by officers who shared the same grim determination. The EHS Vanguard, patched and battle-scarred, led a fleet that had grown stronger but was still vastly outnumbered. "This is it," Lila said, voice steady. "The Karath seek to crush our rebellion before it can spread. But we won't fall." Quietly, Fleet Commander Marcus Thane responded. "Our fighters are ready, shields charged, weapons primed." Lila looked at her crew, faces illuminated by the glow of tactical displays. "Remember who we fight for: the fallen, the survivors, the dreams of Earth and Mars alike. This is humanity's last stand." The first wave struck like thunder. Karath ships unleashed torrents of plasma, tearing into human vessels. Explosions blossomed in the void as fighters engaged in deadly dogfights, weaving through debris and laser fire. Lila's ship maneuvered with precision, countering attacks and delivering crippling blows. Captain Chen led a squadron on daring raids, targeting enemy command nodes to disrupt their coordination. But the Karath's reinforcements were relentless. Their dreadnoughts bore down with devastating firepower, forcing human ships into desperate retreats. Amid the chaos, an urgent alert sounded. "Incoming boarding pods! Multiple vectors!" The Karath aimed to sabotage from within. Lila authorized deployment of security teams to repel boarders, knowing every lost ship meant fewer hands to hold the line. As fighters clashed in brutal combat, Lila received a transmission from Earth Command. No additional reinforcements would arrive. Humanity was truly alone. That knowledge weighed heavily, but steeled her resolve. "We hold or we fall together," she declared. On the battlefield, human ingenuity shone. Engineers jury-rigged damaged ships to become remote-controlled weapons, sending them careening into enemy formations. Sergeant Amina Khalid's elite squad launched counter-assaults against boarding parties, turning the tide in critical sectors. The battle raged for hours, both sides sustaining heavy losses. Then, in a decisive move, Lila ordered a daring strike at the heart of the Karath fleet, their massive flagship, a fortress of steel and shadow. The vanguard and escorting vessels surged forward, weaving through enemy fire. Captain Chen's fighters pierced the flagship's outer defenses, planting charges and sabotaging power cores. Explosions rippled through the colossal ship, fracturing its hull. With a final devastating blast, the flagship exploded, sending shockwaves that shattered enemy formations. The Karath fleet, leaderless and broken, began a chaotic retreat. Cheers erupted aboard the vanguard, but the victory was bittersweet. Countless lives had been lost, and the cost was written in the silence of empty seats and darkened stations. Lila stood among the survivors, gaze fixed on the stars beyond. "We fought not just for survival," she said softly, "but for the right to claim the stars as our own." As Mars's battered surface slowly healed, humanity's spirit burned brighter than ever, a beacon against the void. The war was far from over, but in this last stand, humanity had proven one truth. When the stars burn with the fire of human courage, no darkness can extinguish their light. The first pale light of dawn stretched over the crimson Martian horizon, casting long shadows across the battered remains of New Elysium. The war that had consumed stars and souls was over. For now. Commander Lila Reyes stood outside the command center, her gaze fixed on the awakening planet. Around her, survivors gathered, some tending wounds, others embracing long-lost comrades. The air was heavy with exhaustion, but beneath it simmered something far stronger. Hope. Mars was scarred, its cities shattered, its skies still tinged with smoke. But it was alive, a testament to humanity's unyielding spirit. The Karath, once an unstoppable force, had been pushed back beyond the edge of human space. Their retreat marked not just a victory in battle, but a turning point for the species that had dared to reach beyond their cradle world. Lila's thoughts drifted to Earth, fragile and distant. They had fought for her home, for the dreams of all who looked to the stars and dared to dream of more. Inside the command center, Fleet Commander Marcus Thane addressed the assembled leaders. "We have won a hard-fought battle, but the cost is great. We must rebuild, not just our ships and cities, but the bonds that unite us as one people." Dr. Nira Solis stepped forward, presenting new plans for terraforming projects accelerated by discoveries made during the war. "The enemy forced us to innovate. Now, those innovations can help us create a future where humanity thrives among the stars." Lila nodded in agreement. "We are no longer just survivors. We are pioneers of a new era." Yet amidst the cautious optimism, Lila knew the peace was fragile. The void beyond was vast and full of unknown threats. The Karath had not been entirely vanquished, only delayed. As repairs continued and fleets were reforged, humanity's leaders convened to establish a united coalition, a single voice for all Earth and Martian colonies. Communication channels, open to other human outposts scattered across the solar system, sparking hope of unity in a fractured future. For Lila, the war had changed everything. She had witnessed loss beyond measure, but also the depths of courage and sacrifice. Walking through the settlement's plaza, she saw children playing beneath banners bearing the shattered star and black wings, now reclaimed symbols of humanity's defiance, not submission. A young girl approached her, eyes wide with wonder. "Commander Reyes, will we be safe now?" Lila smiled softly. "We will be safe as long as we remember that the stars belong to all who fight for them." The girl nodded, a spark of determination shining in her gaze. In the quiet moments before the sun fully rose, Lila allowed herself a breath, a moment to grieve, to honor the fallen, and to dream. The void still whispered challenges and dangers, but humanity's light was no longer flickering. It was blazing, and from the ashes of war, a new chapter had begun. One written in the ink of stars, resilience, and the unbreakable will to survive. The stars awaited, and humanity was ready.